Here we are, episode 7, self-submission. Okay, so I think by definition what self-submission means is an actor takes it upon themselves to contact agents, reach out, mail them things, email them things. So I want to talk about that. The final episode that's coming up right after this one will be communication, correspondence, and follow-up. Obviously, they're connected because if you're going to reach out to an agent and send them emails and send them your materials or invitations to something that you might be in, that involves correspondence, communication. Okay, follow-up is a little something later too, but that's critically important as well. Now, I want to tell you something I said yesterday in one of the segments, and I didn't really go into it. I left it out because I thought the discussion was getting a little bit dense, and I will tell you now. What I want to stress at the beginning of this is if you're going to self-submit to agents, first thing I'd say is, what is it you're going to submit to them? Okay, you're going to have to, as I think I made clear, I hope I made clear, you're going to have content. It doesn't have to be a lot, less can be more, it must be quality, it could be a couple of clips, 30 seconds each, it could be a reel that's 90 seconds. It doesn't have to be a lot, and it should be the best of you, and it should look good and sound good and be good, as good as you can be. Okay, so that's going to have to be in the correspondence that you send to them, and I'll tell you in a minute about how you can even find out who to correspond to. Okay, which is a little bit of a wild frontier, but we'll attack it because we need to. So one of the things what I want to tell you here about is when you send stuff to people, the first thing that I'm going to say is this. I told an anecdote yesterday that I called the illuminating referral, which was a situation where I was able to send to an agent someone's reviews, someone's reel, and an explanation that this particular actor was in something in New York, and I thought maybe this agent would be interested, and he was. This is not the same situation. It's just that some of it sounds like it. I got an email from an actor a few weeks ago, and he said he wanted to work with me. And he had these spectacular reviews, not in New York, elsewhere, major New York City, and they were stunning, stunning, stunning reviews. And I said, this is really something. I said, these are major newspapers, major respected theater critics, and they're all talking about your subtlety and your nuance, and it's really quite something. So I said, let me see what you have, though, for you to send something other than reviews, something for an agent to look at. So he sent me several clips. He sent me his website, and there was stuff on it. And I have to admit, I have to tell you, as soon as I saw it, I was like, uh-oh, because the quality was not good. And he knew that. I mean, we talked about it. I said, it looks like low-budget independent film. When people look at a lot of reels and clips, as I do and as most industry people do, I mean, you can tell right away. It's like, whoa, whoa, whoa. It's not competitive. That's the way I put it to him. I said, this is not competitive. And furthermore, I said to him, it does not line up with those reviews. I said, I know that the reviews are for theater, and I know that this stuff is on camera. I said, different medium, but still there's a disconnect here. I don't think these are showing you off well, certainly not where the technical aspect is involved, and also what the parts that you got, the little bits, the snippets, whatever you got from this just does not allow you to shine. I said, so before you send those marvelous reviews, the links to all of them to a whole bunch of agents, I'm going to ask you if there's something you can do. He said, what's that? I said, can you get something else, like within a few days maybe, that we can send? He said, I can do that. So 48 hours later, I get something from him. And I looked at it. Now, it was what one would call long for one person. It was over 2 minutes long. So I know that I said quality over quantity and less can be more. So I'm intentionally contradicting myself here a little bit to prove that there are no rules. It was kind of long, especially for one person. Now when I saw it, I thought, okay, 2 minutes is this is probably from a play because most people in movies and TV shows don't talk for 2 minutes nonstop. That's just more of the writing and device of the theater. So I said to him, where did you get it? And he told me. I said, how did you do this so quickly? He said, I set up the cameras. He said, I did it in a conference room. I'm alone at the conference table, and I'm speaking to somebody that nobody knows who it is. And I said, doesn't frankly matter. And I said, it's really, really good. And he said, should I edit it? He said, I know it goes over 2 minutes. And I said, in your case, no. I said, now, if I were a casting director, I looked at that. As I've said before, casting directors work on an ad hoc basis, and they might look at 10 or 20 seconds and say, okay, yes, we'll bring him in. No, that's not what we're looking for. But you're looking for representation, and I think this takes you on a journey and them on a journey with all that you have in here. And I said, by the way, all those reviews that talked about your nuance and subtlety and how you're a master of craft at that, it's all right here. I said, if they don't want to watch the whole thing, they don't have to. I said, but I think this is what I think you should do. I said, I think you don't need the other stuff that you have. Put this on and say in your letter, here are my reviews. Basically, it was built up a little bit more than that, not too much. And here's a link to my work. Boom. First person that got it made an offer after they spoke to him on the phone. So I said, this is, normally if somebody sent me 2 minutes, they wouldn't be the only one in it. So a lot of times when I'm editing reels for actors, I go, okay, the other person's talking too much. This is your reel, not theirs. You just develop an eye for this stuff after you've been looking at reels for, 40 years. And that was 40, not 4, okay? And I said, but this is really exceptional work, and I think you should just let it play out. And so that replaced the substandard stuff that he said it was all I had. I said, I know. I said, but you can't afford to send out you can't go the all I had route when you're, for the first time, reaching out for representation when you've gotten some wonderful jobs on stage yourself. And I said, you were on it. I said, 2 days later, I had it. And I said, whoa. And there you were. So this is taking us back to the stuff episode. You could have 3 30-second things, a 90-second reel, 16 bars, 32 bars of a song, whatever it is, you have to have content on there. You don't want to send anything, and I know I said that yesterday, so I won't keep saying it. But what I'm telling you now are the components that go into a good self-submission to a representative. So your letter can be very short. It might not even get read, but you got to write one anyway. And it could be Dear Agent, or you could know the person's name depending on the research, which I'll get into. It could be Dear Jane Reynolds, Dear Bob Adams. I've gotten away from the Mr. and Ms. because in our culture, we don't know people's identity or anything. You could say Dear Agent. You're going to find as you go on to different agencies' websites, a lot of times there's a portal that says actor submission. So you could simply say Dear Agent. Okay, now I'm going to tell you what not to do, okay? Please don't, when you say Dear Jane Addams, start your letter with, my name is Bob Anderson. They know what your name is, or they should. It should be on your email address. It will be right at the bottom of your brief letter. It will be on your Actors Access, if you send them to links on your internet casting site. It will be on your resume. It will be on your photo. And once again, they can just glance down very quickly and see your name. It's kind of I know why actors do it. It's like a sort of a way to sort of soften the blow. But I was talked about a friend of mine who's in professional business correspondence, and we both agreed it sort of sounds like either something a 10-year-old would say, or else when you go to those conventions and then you get that thing, that circle thing that you have to wear that says, hello, my name is, you don't need it. They can see what your name is, and you're wasting valuable space. So I will say this right now. It may sound a little harsh, but in my 35 years of working with actors on their correspondence, I can say that 90% of actors, 90% of the time, overwrite. I will take a look at a cover letter that an actor wants to write, and I will get rid of 2/3 of it, and they won't be missing anything. I'll say, this is extraneous, extraneous, extraneous. Nobody wants to open up an email and be assaulted with verbiage, nor typically do they want to see 15 links there either. Okay, so I am able to pare that down. And I will admit to you gladly that this was an acquired skill of mine. When I wrote my first book, my editor would send back chapters of it, and she'd draw lines to a certain, I'd go, what? And I'd look at what remained, and it was what I wrote, plus what she took out, and I would say, there's nothing missing. So it's absolutely amazing, and I don't expect you necessarily have that eye, and we all need another eye. We all have editors, we all have directors, we have coaches, and that's what they're there for. But most of the time, there's just too much verbiage going on there. So I'm sort of talking about the do-nots. I hate to say there are rules because I just said there aren't any. But here's something else that you can really avoid. You really don't need to say, dear so-and-so, allow me to introduce myself. Okay, again, we really don't need that. So they're going to see what your name is and where it is. You can dismiss it, and you can start off with what you have to say. So I'm going to tell you a little story here because this goes into what is my subject line going to say to an agent. I know I'm jumping ahead of how do I even find out who these people are, but I'm going to get to that. This one was an actor that I worked with this week, and it's going to sound to you watching this like, duh, that would be a subject. It did not strike him that way because he's inside him, and it didn't occur to him that would be a logical subject line. Now, what I'm about to tell you is in the actors, in a percentage of actors that is not very high. So I very simply looked at his work, which I was aware of, and our subject line was former series regular / Netflix recurring / network recurring / major guest star seeks rep. Okay, now I know you're probably saying, well, I don't have that. Or you might be saying, well, duh, wouldn't it be obvious that that's what he would put there? Apparently not. So what we did with his letter is I simply said to him, you're going to start off with dear, and then we'll figure out who the agents are. And you're going to say, to elaborate on the subject line, the shows that I had these recurring and series regulars on. And he named them, all of them, Sense8, boom. He named each one of them, and he said, and below, right here, is the link to see the reel of my work there. So it's like proof is in the pudding, there it is. What I suggested to him, and I'm going to suggest to you, because you may only have this at this point, if you even have this. I said, what I want you to do now is say casting directors who know my work include, because he's been out of the business for a couple of years, and that's why he's seeking representation. A lot of people have been out of the business for a couple of years. So I said, casting directors who know my work include bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, bullet point, and name some people who maybe never cast you, but you've been in their office several times. You don't have to say what it was. You can just say, auditioned and called back for multiple guest stars, because the people that you're writing to, the agents, they hope that maybe the people that they're sending your stuff to or your self-tapes will be going to just might know who you are. So it's a huge question in New York, as I've talked about and written about a lot, which casting directors know your work. I said, but it's a good boost underneath, where your reel is, and then simply say, I'm looking for new representation, I'm re-entering the business, I would like to meet with you if possible, thank you sincerely, and his name. Everything was there. So that's about ready to go out. Okay, now you're saying, but I don't have that stuff. So I'm working my way down a little bit here in terms of what your subject line could be. It could be 2022 graduate BFA program, name of it. And then a short letter saying, dear agent, dear Joe Smith, I am a spring 2022 graduate. You might name a couple of plays that you did that showed some range. And then if you're lucky, like my students at NYU are, we have casting directors who teach there. So all my students have to send me their cover letter. And like I said, I have to send them all back to them and saying this at least 3 times as much verbiage here as we need, cut, 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 cut. And then I have them put the 3 names or the 4 names of their teacher with a bullet point and bold it. Because as you know, probably the whole reason for bullet points is when somebody's looking at something, it pulls your eye into it. Just think of mail you get, email or snail mail. They've structured it in such a way that they want the greatest hits to pop. And one thing they always forget to do is bold, not capitalized, bold the names of the casting directors. So I go over, I say bold, bold, bold. And then I say, if you have any history with these people, like they've brought you in for anything to audition for, maybe a callback, that's part of that line there. And then you can put in a few special skills if you have them, and then, here's the link to my reel. So you see how I'm moving down here a little bit? We've gone from a person who had a series to somebody coming out of a school, a top school. Now we're going to, it could be maybe not a top school, but a decent school. It could be just something where you are inviting people to something that we know there's a really good chance they're not going to come. So the subject line could be, invitation to the name of the play at the name of the theater, and inside you're inviting them to it. Let me know if you can come and I will get you complimentary tickets, which you must do. And then you can say, here's a link to my reel. So what we're going over here again is you have to have stuff, doesn't have to be a lot, but you have to give them a show. So what I just went over there a little bit was how to get to them, how to correspond with them, what the content should be, and it does not have to be very long. Less can be more. They might not even read it. I know when somebody sends me something, I look at the very quickly, and then I go to the link. I want to see the work. I want to see the show. So that's what I'll talk about right now, or what I did talk about in this self-submission, and just kind of the nature of it and some ideas for you as to what the content could be. It'll be different for everybody, but less can be more. The great Mark Twain, I read something he said the other day, and I loved it. I thought it was perfect. He said to somebody, if I had more time, I would have written a shorter letter.